is upon us at Chelsea. Now, last week, one of our first topics was, does Thomas Tuchel know his best 11? This is the best example of showing you how long a week is in football, particularly in Premier League football, because now we're going to be asking if Graham Potter knows his best 11 and what it is, and we'll get to that. But first of all, your reaction to Tuchel's sacking, Janusz.
Yeah, not surprised at all. Really, you and I have been talking about that a little bit, right? And I think I did call a little bit, the fact that Todd Bowley may be Roman Abramovich 2.0. I think he's going to be of the same ilk, in a sense that you don't spend $400 million dollars in the offseason, and you don't pay the crazy amount of money they did to be owners of Chelsea, to just kind of say, you know what, we'll be happy with top four. This is a club, and it seems to me a hands-on owner, right? I mean, think about that, right? We didn't see Roman very, very much, although he was quick to make a decision. This is probably Glazier either, who kind of stays away and doesn't care about the team as much, right? So no surprise whatsoever. If you think you have a problem, and that seemed to be the case, not just because of the results, but obviously that decision seemed to be made ahead of the last game in the Champions League. If you think you have a problem, you better fix it, and fix it quickly.
Janusz, you did call this last week. You said that Tuchel needed to be careful when we were talking about the managerial hot seat. But there's been a lot of talk about how Potter's going to fare, if the players will accept him, how he's going to deal with the bigger egos. We've got a lot of that already on ESPN FC. I want to throw it forward on PL Express. I want to ask you which players at Chelsea you think are going to benefit from this new coach, which players are going to thrive.
Well, it's interesting. He got a little bit of a more time in terms of training, because what has happened in England, obviously a weekend off, so that's a bonus. I wish I could tell you exactly which ones. I think you have to look at Brighton and how they played. I think it's important, though, to mention. I know it's been talked about, because everybody says, how is he going to deal with the egos? How is he going to deal with the better players? I think every manager wants to have better players, right? Why think of it as a negative that he's done it at a lower level with a club with lower expectations? But think about it. If he can improve players at Brighton, which he has clearly, I have to imagine that he's looking forward to work with players that are actually better. Because if we consider the fact that he's a very, very good coach, which I think we all get it, I think he's going to improve the Mason Mounts of the world. Look at Mason Mount as of late, a drop-off. Christian Pulisic is one of those players that I think is going to get a chance. And he's going to get a chance because I look at the makeup of Brighton and think about the likes of Leandro Trossard, Solly March. They're not great players, but they're players that play in wide positions. They're players that can play behind a striker. And this is something that Graham Potter has enjoyed. He's got a number of players, Danny Welbeck and Young Webb, who play in there. So I have to imagine that all of a sudden, maybe the role of Sterling is going to be, I don't want to say different, but it's going to be better, right? Because Chelsea recently played Havertz with Sterling, and that didn't look all that great. But I think with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, that all of a sudden gives Sterling the ability to roam a little bit. Everybody wants to see him wide. Brighton played 3-5-2 for the most part. I don't know. Maybe Potter will try that, or 3-4-3 in a way. So I think you look at Ziyech, who's going to get that opportunity, play it underneath or a little bit wider. Everybody else picks itself. Marco Correa obviously is going to have a big role, because there's a question of him maybe playing on that left side in the back three, which makes sense for him being left-footed, because I think Chilwell, if informed, picks himself. The big issue is, for me, in the center of the midfield and at center back.
Why is it such a big issue?
Well, because I don't know if you can rely on Thiago Silva throughout the season. This has been the case so far, right? I mean, Thiago Silva is playing just about every game for the most part. I know he didn't travel to Dinamo Zagreb, and I'm not saying that because of that they lost, but who knows? So I think he needs to quickly figure it out, a way to play without him and do it well. And that's a question mark, because I don't necessarily see a player that picks itself to be as a central figure in that back three. We don't know. Koulibaly started okay, then he struggled, red card. Obviously, we know he's made some mistakes in a game against Dinamo Zagreb. Fofana just got there. I don't know if he is the one that's going to be anchoring that defense. That's a big ask. So it's going to be interesting to see. And then in the center of the midfield, the role of Jorginho. Chelsea is the pass, get nowhere type of team, right? And if you look at Brighton in so many ways, who's going to be the Pascal Gross or Alexis McAllister? Is it going to be somebody a little bit more mobile? So that could be an opportunity for a number of players. I would have to imagine that Kovacic is going to be one that he's going to rely on heavily. He's the sort of one that reminds me a little bit of Alexis McAllister, kind of players box to box rather than maybe just the rhythm keeper in Jorginho. Because sometimes, as good as he is, you kind of just get that ball forward, get the ball to the people that matter and to the people that can score goals. And that's, of course, a big issue with Chelsea.
Well, we will wait to see when his first Premier League game actually will be. At the time of recording, we're still not sure as to whether the weekend's games would go ahead, but it would be against Liverpool. If that's postponed, the first game will be after the international break. It will be against Crystal Palace away from home. But one thing we do know is that they will be in action in the Champions League this week against Salzburg. Tuchel sacked after that first game for Chelsea in the Champions League against Dinamo Zagreb. There is going to be many an eye on Potter's team selection, which is why it really is an interesting topic right now. So I think we'll get a good idea as to what we can expect going forward. What will be expected of him, given that this is his first game, but he has had a little bit of time to work with his new squad?
Yeah, I think the reaction. I mean, it's easy to say that with a new manager, there's always a reaction, but I'll be looking for that energy, for that fluidity, because I mean, he is known as a manager, and his team plays. And I've said they're a little bit more direct than what we've seen under Tuchel in terms of Chelsea. In other words, they get the ball forward much quicker. Still a good build-up, still good technical team. This is a team that understands how to play. Players understand their role. So I'm going to look at that in how they play, and not necessarily in what the result's going to be, because I think they're going to find a way to beat Salzburg. I think, it may be, I don't want to call it an easy win, but I expect Chelsea to get a win regardless. But I think everybody's going to look if there are tweaks in that system. And the first one, I'll repeat myself, is going to be how quickly Chelsea attack, how they transition from back to front, how much time do they spend changing the point of attack? Are they going to be passing the ball sideways and backwards sometimes in order just to keep possession, which I think has been a case for a long time? I do not think that's going to be the case. I think Potter is going to ask for energy and a quick movement.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.